Welcome back to Coca-Cola Coliseum in Toronto. The Belleville Sens play their season finale against the Marlies. Really pleased to be joined now by the General Manager of the Ottawa Senators, Pierre Dorion, taking some time for us. Appreciate it, sir. Thanks for dropping by.
My pleasure to be here, David.
I know, obviously, your attention is mostly taken up by what's happening in Ottawa, but naturally, you also follow along with Belleville. What have you made of Belleville's season this year? Obviously disappointing to not make the playoffs, but how have you felt about this campaign overall?
Overall, fairly happy. Fairly happy that a lot of our prospects have taken big strides. Happy about the veteran leadership that's been here. Obviously, we wanted to be playing the playoffs here. But sometimes you can't control a lot of things that happen as far as injuries up top, which affects obviously your players available here. And we were bitten by the injury bug, and it was unfortunate. And unfortunately, that affects the Belleville players at times.
But you mentioned obviously the development. I think is the highlight. We've seen a lot of guys get a taste of the NHL. Some guys maybe improve their position on the depth chart. Would you say that's kind of been the big highlight of the year from the Belleville perspective?
For sure.
Yeah.
Obviously. Matt's coming up playing so well. Mando coming up playing so well. Being a great pro. He went to the Coast League, accepted, did everything we asked, and that's one of the reasons he got called up for some games. We had injuries, but we could have brought him or someone else up, so we just made that decision. You look at the progress of Ridley Gregg. We wanted to play him 50 games before he was going to get called up, but we just felt at this point in time he'd played enough. You look at how JBD's taken a huge stride. I looked at Max, only played one game, but he showed that he's got the chance to be a legit NHL player. We want to give some games to Sokolov at the end. We were able to do that, and he showed that he's knocking on the door too.
And I think one of the things we're trying to get across, especially to the fans in Belleville, is just the impact on player development that the AHL club has. And really this year seems to be kind of a model of that, how great of an impact and how quick of an impact the AHL club can have on getting guys to the NHL.
No, without a doubt. If you do things right at this level, then it's going to be beneficial for your team in the short, medium, and long term. And that impact about developing the players at the right pace, but that it's also for guys that get called up. Who would have told you that Jake Lucchini would have been called up and played those amount of games? Yeah. So he did it right here. Same thing with Rourke Chartier. He was playing some really good hockey down here, and we just felt that even though I wouldn't consider him at the age of a younger prospect, we just felt it was the right thing to call him up at that point in time.
What is the benefit to getting so many guys, even a little taste of NHL experience?
Well, I think they understand what it's all about. You can tell them as much as you can until they live it, and they live how faster the game is, how the execution is, how everyone for the most of the time is always in the right spot. It just allows you to, they can see it for themselves, they can analyze themselves, especially the players that really have a good hockey IQ and understand the game. They understand what they have to do, because a lot of times you're going to play a different game down here than you will play up top, because you get so little room up top.
Chatting with Ottawa Senators General Manager Pierre Dorion for a couple more minutes. Obviously the offseason is upon us here. And there's a lot to worry about for you in Ottawa, but how much focus and how much do you guys look at the Belleville roster throughout the course of the summer as well to try to add those pieces that will help support the developing prospects?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
We spent a lot of time on, obviously, with Ryan Bonus and Sean McCauley. They spend a lot of time, making sure that the guys that we bring in, as far as veterans, are high-character guys. I was really been impressed with the work that Ryan put in this summer for the guys he put on this team. And at the same time, we always consult with the coaches. But you'd be surprised. People think that it's definitely not an afterthought for us. We put a lot of time when all our pro scouts come in before free agency. We meet in June, and we spend quite a I think people would be shocked how much time we spend, and we feel it's very important, especially with our partnership with Belleville, to make sure that we surround our young players with really good people to start off, and get them a chance, to showcase themselves for a possible call-up.
We asked Ryan Bonus this yesterday as well, and without naming names, because we don't want to put anybody on the spot, is there a number perhaps of Belleville players that could make that full-time jump next season?
Oh, we can name names.
Sure.
David, I like you, so why don't we name names?
All right. Okay. Who do you like?
Right now, obviously, if you look on the back end, you got to look at a guy like Matt Sogart. Yeah, I think he'll challenge for a spot next year. Obviously, on the fence, I think Bernard Docker, it's probably his spot to lose. I think we were really impressed with Max Gannett. Has been unbelievable this year. I think we all expected more out of Lassie. So those would be, quickly 3 names that, that probably people are going to have to notice at camp, and they're going to have good camps. Up front, I think he's led our team this year, Igor Sokolov. We wanted to get him those games at the end so he understood what it was about. So when he trains, he's led our team. He's done everything he's asked to. I think Igor knows that he's got to come to camp in better shape than he showed up last year.
Yeah.
You know what? It's your livelihood. You got to put the effort. But as far as his attitude here, his work ethic, we can't question that, and he shows that he wants it. You got to look at a guy like Ridley Gregg, but if they ever do come back, for their stints up there, guys like Lucchini and Chartier played really well. We would have called up Sabi this year if he wouldn't got hurt. He really got hurt at the wrong time. So in a nutshell, and I hope I'm not forgetting anyone, Dylan Hetherington when he's been a call up has been good. Same thing with Jacob Larson. We know Dylan's with us again next year. So obviously those are 2 guys, and just I think I've hit everyone. I forgot someone. I apologize. But in a guy like a guy like Cole Reinhardt and Angus Crookshank are 2 guys that they've got to come in camp in unbelievable shape. Like Angus this year is going to play probably the whole year here. Yeah. But those 2 guys that have contributed in different roles. Angus probably has a bit more offensive upside. Cole will be able to play that 3rd, 4th line role, but they've got to come in great shape. They don't realize the impact that you can have on a coach when you're at the top of the conditioning when you step into camp. Yeah. So guys like that, next year they're going, last year of their entry-level deals, they've got to come in and show that they can play games consistently if they don't make it, but you never know the type of impact that we want, because we're going to be a cap team next year. So we need those cheap entry-level guys, those cheaper guys to fit in. So I think guys like that, in different roles, like Cole is more of a role player. Angus might have a bigger upside, but that doesn't mean you play if you got the bigger upside. So those would be guys offhand, and I hope I didn't forget anyone here that I think a lot of our fans should be excited about for next year. Yeah,
lots to look forward to next year. Lastly, one of the things we've been getting a lot of questions about is just how the ownership change might affect Belleville. Are you able to speak to that at all, or just too many moving parts?
No, the only thing I'll say is that the ownership process, I meeted with them, I talked to them about hockey, and Belleville is very important. Obviously, Mr. Melnick owned the Belleville team. Yep. I always call them the Belleville Bulls back in my days. I know they're not the Belleville Bulls, but by the way,
we did wear the jerseys the other week.
I watched that. For people that don't know, I'd say probably I've seen 60 of the games. 60. I think I hit 60 in person or on my iPad. I always watch them the next day. I fast forward, sometimes through it. Yeah. But part of the process is indicating to them how important Belleville is to our success, and I think they're both, the Ottawa Senators as a whole entity, and Belleville's part of that entity.
Yeah, lots to look forward to, as we say. Pierre Dorion's the general manager of the Ottawa Senators. Thank you again so much for the time and the insight. Really appreciate it.
Perfect. Thank you, David.
Take a quick break, and we're back to Coca-Cola Coliseum on the Belleville Sens season finale on the Belleville Sens Entertainment Network after this.